Hello, my name is Lizzie, and this is Lizzie's Literary Life, and today we are doing my September Tipsy Wrap Up. I know this is the September wrap up, but I'm filming it in October and you're watching it in October, and my October wrap up is going to be filmed in November when it's not spooky season anymore. So I have this spooky season glass, and by glass I mean plastic, that I got at Stop and Shop with a slightly orange tinted beverage for the holiday vibes. This is an apricot lady that I got the mixer for at the Hudson Valley Garlic Festival, which I went to with Ruby from Ruby Red and Rena, who's on Instagram. I'm not going to put it on the screen. It'll be in the description. On her Bookstagram will be in the description. So that was super fun to meet up with them. And clink. So this is the apricot mixer, white rum, and seltzer water. I think if I were to make it again, I would use a little more of the mixer. It's said to do like equal parts mixer and rum, and then like seltzer to taste. And I feel like I'm mostly getting the rum flavor, and I would like the apricot a little bit more. So, but it's good. It's good. I like it. And we're here to talk about all the books that I read in September, which is not very many, but that's okay. I'm going to start with stats. I read 9 books in the month of September, which is, I think, tied for my lowest reading month of the year. Let me confirm that. I lied. I read 8 books in a couple months. So ignore what I just said, but it's not a great reading month for me, but also this year has been lower than last year was, and that's fine. And I just started a new job. It's crazy. Teaching middle school is hard. And so I haven't felt like I've had a lot of time to read, but that's okay. I still read 9 books, which is still awesome. That was 3,210 pages for an average of 356.6 pages per book, which is that's a normal book length. Audiobook hours, 10.48. I had several audiobooks this month. My average rating was a 3.22. I think I just am being meaner with my ratings lately. I don't think it's necessarily that I'm reading worse books. I'm not reading 5-star books as much, but I also think what I used to give a 4-star, now I'm giving a 3 or a 3.5. So I'm just getting meaner, I guess. It's taken me an average of 11 days to read each book. Pages per day, 107, which even for a low reading month, still reading more than 100 pages per day on average is still pretty cool. I read for a total of 33 and a quarter hours for an average of 3.69 hours spent on each book. Pages per hour, 105, which actually, for the amount of audiobooks, seems like a lot, but you'll see in a minute, I read a lot of middle grade this month. I did not make a Jigsaw TBR, and I'll tell you why in a minute. So I didn't have a TBR, so that's not applicable. Here's my genre breakdown. I read entirely fantasy and mystery thrillers, so I didn't read anything else. And more interestingly, here is my age group breakdown. I read 6 middle grades and only 3 adult books. So that's probably why my pages per hour, even though it was audios, was still pretty high, because I read so many middle grades. And then format-wise, more than half audio, which has not happened yet this year, I don't think. And the rest physical. I barely touched my Kindle this month. So that's interesting. And ratings-wise, we had a lot of 3.5s. That has been my go-to lately. A couple 2 stars, unfortunately, a 3, and a couple 4 stars. No 4.5s or 5s, but it's okay. And now we're zooming through. I say we're zooming through every month and then it's always so long, but we're doing our best, okay? We're doing our best. The first book that I read in the month of September was Amari and the Night Brothers by B.B. Alston. And I think I said this when I put it on my TBR, I was spoiled for this book. The twist where a character just something, I was I knew that from the beginning because I was spoiled. And I feel like I don't usually get spoiled very often. I'm pretty careful, but also I don't know. I don't get spoiled very often. But I also kind of had this idea that it doesn't really matter. I don't think it would affect my enjoyment of the book that much. I would have enjoyed it so much more if I had not known that. It just really took all the intrigue out of it, which is kind of annoying. But I still gave it 3.5 stars. It was fun. It's fun vibes. I should tell you what it's about. Amari and the Night Brothers is about a girl named Amari who's 12, 13. And her brother has been missing for a while. And she finds out that he was part of this supernatural world that has been hidden. She doesn't know that most of the people in the world don't know that supernatural creatures exist. There's this whole supernatural world that she finds out exists, and her brother was a part of it, and him going missing was involved with that somehow. And so there's trials to get her kind of inducted, or is she gonna make it into the supernatural secret society type thing. So that was super fun. The characters are fun. Her best friend Elsie is a really fun character. It's very whimsical, very fun. My enjoyment was not there. Maybe I would have liked it more if I hadn't known. I think I would have liked it more if I hadn't known the twist, but it is what it is. And then I read Such a Quiet Place by Megan Miranda. This is a thriller about it's one of those really small town. Everyone's so close knit. We're all friends. It's like a gated community almost. And there was this murder that happened a year ago, and our main character's roommate was convicted of killing this other couple on the court, and then she gets out, so everyone thinks it's her. And they all kind of had a hand in her getting convicted, getting the evidence together, and then she's released 9-10 months later for a retrial because they don't know if it was actually her, and so it's was it her, who's lying, whatever. This I gave 3.5 stars. I have fun. I think back on it positively, mostly. I think it was a very standard thriller or mystery. I thought it just wasn't anything special. Honestly, I don't really remember much about it from the beginning of the month because it just was I don't know, I wanted a thriller on audio, and so I found that one, and then I read it, and it just is what it is. It wasn't bad, but at all. There was nothing bad about it, I don't think, that I remember, but it wasn't anything special, really. It didn't really hold my attention in that way that I want a thriller to, so 3.5 is what it is. And then, so here's okay. My plan for September was to read all 8 of Ruth Ware's books in publication order and do a vlog. I got through 2.5 of them because I barely read in September, it felt like, and also I did not like them. So here's the first one. So that vlog has been abandoned, I'm afraid. It's possible I'll come back to it in November. If you really, really want me to read the rest of them and you really want to see that, I'll come back to it in November. You'll know from my TBR why I can't continue it into October because they're set after 2000. But I just kind of lost steam. So In a Dark, Dark Wood is her debut. And I gave this 2 stars. I was so bored. I thought, and part of it was that I, picked it up and then I had to put it down because I was busy and I just lost the intrigue. But also, the intrigue was barely there to start with. So, this is about, a bunch of like this woman is invited to the like bachelorette weekend hen do, because it's British, of one of her friends from like high school that she hasn't spoken to in 10 years. And it's like implied that there was like something nasty that happened, and that's why they haven't spoken in 10 years. And so she doesn't know why she's invited. And then like you have like a flash forward type thing. So there's an accident or like murder, something happens at the end of the weekend. She ends up in the hospital, but like you see like flashes of she's in the hospital. She can't remember what happened, and her going through this weekend with all these people she hasn't seen in a really long time. It kept being like, and we have this big secret. And I was like, okay, but I don't care. Because it was like the big secret was like why she and this other character broke up. It was like, I don't really, like, doesn't feel high stakes to me. Like, 17-year-olds breaking up and they're still obsessed with it 10 years later. Like, that just doesn't feel realistic or intriguing to me. Like, nothing, I can't, like, there wasn't anything I could think of that would warrant that. And then when you find out what it is, it still doesn't really warrant that. So it's like, why have you been obsessed with this for 10 years? And why is, like, I didn't really get it. And we had also, and I said this to the vlog that will probably not see the light of day, I don't like it. I think it's lazy writing in thrillers when the, like, wrap up is, like, the motive for whatever crimes are committed is just, like, that person is evil and spiteful and, like, crazy or whatever. I just feel like that's lazy writing. Like, oh, she's a bad person, so she did crimes. Like, boring. Boring. Like, I want a motive. Anyway, that was not very good. And then we get into my Squash That Series reads. So I'm not going to really talk about these in detail because I did a vlog for Squash That Series where I read the first 3 books. Actually reread the first 3 books in the Rosewood Chronicles by Connie Glynn. I gave them 4, 4, and 3.5 stars, and you can watch that vlog to see me reading them. I'll give a quick synopsis. It's they're middle grade, princessy, light fantasy. I talk in the vlog about how, like, they're classed as fantasy, but there's not actually any magic. It's just, like, a fantasy type world, where there's, like, princesses of fictional countries. But basically it's like a boarding school princess mistaken identity type story with, like, a lot of found family, friendship, a little sapphic love story. It's so fun. They're so fun, and I'm really excited to finish the series. There's 5 books. I reread those first 3, and the plan was to read them all because I hadn't read the 4th and 5th yet. I still haven't because I didn't get to them, but I will probably in November. So super fun. Highly recommend that series if you like middle grade and if that sounds like your vibe. So fun. But those were those 3, 4, 4, 3.5 stars. And then I read Disney at Dawn, Kingdom Keepers #2 by Ridley Pearson. Kingdom Keepers is Martine from Just Martine's childhood favorite series, which is about a group of kids who solve mysteries in Disney World in the early 2000s. These are fun. Let me drink first and then I'll tell you about it. The first one I gave 2.5 stars because it was fun, but there's a lot, it's very early 2000s. Like, there will be lines and you're like, like, written by a white man in the early 2000s. So there's a lot of stuff that doesn't quite age well. Not like big plot things, just like some characterization stuff and some of the ways that different characters are talked about doesn't super age well. But it's a super fun, like, concept and world and environment to be in, especially if you love Disney and have like Martine grew up near Disney World and, like, was going all the time, and that's, like, one way to experience it. But I also, as a kid, I didn't go until I was 17, but I was, like, obsessed with Disney and would have loved these, just as the, like, wish fulfillment type thing. But this one was better. I gave this one 3 stars after the first one got 2.5 because we really got a lot more fleshed out characters in this one. I thought in the first one of my big complaints was that we had this huge cast of characters and it felt like we only got to know one or two of them. And a couple of the other characters were really fleshed out in this book. Like, most of the other characters were really fleshed out in this book. So I really appreciated that. And I'm definitely interested in continuing the series. The, like, plot, I don't know. I feel like I described the concept. I don't describe the individual plots. But they're just fun. I enjoyed it. But it's not, like, great. I just, I enjoyed it. I had a good time. And then I read another Ruth Ware, The Woman in Cabin 10, which is her second release from 2016. This one I, like, hated until the very end. This one got 2 stars. In a Dark, Dark Wood also got 2 stars. That one was, like, bleh through the whole thing. Or, like, it was, like, fine through the whole thing, and then the ending sucked. This one was, like, such a bad start. And then the ending was, like, fine. Like, I was more intrigued in the last little bit. But I don't even remember. I thought this one was boring. I thought it was boring. I didn't find what was really going on intriguing. I also thought that, like, the whole unreliable narrator thing, it just didn't really work for me. I thought it was like, let me tell you what it's about. We have this woman, she's a travel journalist, and she is going on this cruise with a bunch of rich people. She's in cabin 9, and basically, like, on the first night, she hears what she thinks is a murder of the woman in cabin 10. So the woman in the adjacent cabin, she thinks gets murdered because she hears this, she sees blood, this is what happens. Everyone else says there's never been anyone in that cabin. Like, that cabin is empty. And she's like, but I met someone who was in that cabin. And so it's a lot of just, like, people not believing her about this murder. And her being she starts to not trust herself. I didn't really like how the unreliable narrator thing was done, especially because it was, like, I don't know, the, like, reasoning that it hinged on rubbed me the wrong way. If you know, you know. If you read this book and don't know what I'm talking about, I'll let you know, but I don't want to spoil it. And I thought it was boring. I thought the plot was boring. There wasn't a lot of intrigue for me. And then the ending picked up the last, like, 30%. I had that intrigue and wanted to keep reading. I did almost DNF in the middle, but that last 30% was better, and that's why I got a 2-star and not less. But this really just didn't work for me. And then the final book that I read in September was Amari and the Great Game, the sequel to the first book I read in September by B.B. Alston. This one had not been spoiled for me, but I just wasn't really feeling this one. I don't know. It got 3.5 stars like the first one, but I think I liked it less. I don't really know. I wasn't really invested. And maybe I think it partly was like a me thing of, like, where I was at when I was reading it, and, like, the fact that I listened to it on audio and that kind of thing, but I just didn't really, like, feel it. So yeah, I don't have much else to say except that, like, I didn't love it, but I didn't hate it. 3.5 stars. It was fine. And that's all the books that I read in September. I'm hoping that October is a much better reading month for me. If you've seen my TBR, you know I have ambitious plans. I just filmed that earlier. I'm wearing the same thing. I filmed it the same day. It is what it is. But yeah. Honestly, I'm going to get reading because I have so much reading to do in October. I have high hopes for a high average rating. So tune back in my October wrap up to see if I'm correct. Like this video, comment if you have any thoughts on any of these books or any ideas of things you think I should read, and subscribe to my channel, and I will see you in the next one. Bye.